Welcome everyone to the Christian Mystic channel. I go by John Tyler Tuck, and I'm here to give everyone a Christian perspective on spirituality and ascension, while providing the solid proof for the ties between spirituality and science, and this is in hope to give everyone a comprehensive view of the spiritual realm, while also using the said knowledge to prove my God, who is Yeshua, the many ways he works and how he's revealed himself in all of his creation. God in his definition is non-physical, so physical science fails greatly. I'm here because spiritual science is the only means to find God and prove him concretely. In this video, we'll be talking about DMT, or dimethyltriptamine.
I ask that you suspend any opinions, either negative or positive, about these compounds. Whatever you believe their value to be, they continue to have profound effects wherever we find their use, whether it's contemporary Western culture or in the Amazon rainforest.
N,N-dimethyltryptamine, DMT, or N,N-DMT, is a substituted tryptamine that occurs in most all plants and animals, and really in anything alive. It is used as a recreational psychedelic drug and has been prepared by various cultures for ritual purposes as an entheogen for thousands of years. This is mostly in the form of the drink ayahuasca in South America. If you're Christian, you may ask yourself, what's the point or the significance of this psychedelic hippie-related drug, and what on earth would it have to do with God? Well, first off, it's going mainstream. In 2008, a study published in the American Journal of Addiction found that 0.2% of the population was using DMT, and in 2014 that number had jumped to 0.7%, along with more and more people becoming religiously unaffiliated. So again, what does this substance have to do with God? Well, if we were to understand it properly, possibly everything. This particular substance goes far deeper than we can ever get from just the surface level. Now dubbed the spirit molecule, DMT has been recently found to be naturally occurring in the human body as well as in everything living. It's found in large quantities in the cerebral spinal fluid, which is thought to have been utilized by all civilizations in their religious practices to produce all otherworldly and spiritual experiences. It's thought to be produced in the lungs and in the eye, and it's also speculated that it's made in the pineal gland and is released in our brain when we die and when we dream. Wow, right? Well, currently it's also in clinical development in hallucinogen-assisted therapy, or HAT, aka psychedelic therapy for psychiatric disorders, and has helped many relieve past traumas and recover from PTSD and much, much more. DMT is a unique substance in that most every time one partakes in it, they can be assured to have had or have an out-of-body experience.
Bang, you're in another place, and then bang, you're back down.
According to its users, the visions can range from heavenly scenes to hellish landscapes, to extraterrestrial entities, to machine elves operating on you and fixing ailments, to even meeting God himself. It's very well reported that time simply falls apart and is absolutely meaningless, and that an enlightening, euphoric oneness with everything is achieved. For the ones who know the biblical Hebrew, this can be very interesting. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Ehud. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. But the perhaps most interesting aspect of this substance is, according to all of its users, or most all of them, the full experience feels like dying and being reborn. In doing so, it mirrors the story of Christ as well as Lazarus and many more. Partakers have dubbed this phenomena ego death, and it has many ties to near-death experiences, or NDEs. These are complex experiential episodes that occur in association with death or in the perception that it is impending. Although there is no universally accepted definition of the near-death experience, common features include feelings of inner peace, out-of-body experiences, traveling through a dark region or void that's commonly associated with a tunnel, visions of a bright light, entering into an unearthly other realm and communicating with sentient beings or God. In comparison, commonly described features of the DMT experience include a feeling of transcending one's body and entering into an alternative realm, an acoustic perception of a high-pitched whining or whirring sound during the onset of the experience, perceiving and communicating with presences or entities and sometimes God, plus reflections on death, dying, and the afterlife.
The DMT flash makes it clear that disembodied consciousness is a possibility. I think that the whole tension of history and the tension of life seems to be about the shedding of the body.
This ego death is not only experienced from DMT, but also from many other similar psychedelic substances like magic mushrooms, LSD, mescaline, salvia, and edible cannabis. In this part, we will stick mostly with the mushrooms, LSD, and DMT and focus on their similarities to serotonin and melatonin. These two are very common neurotransmitters that are responsible for most of our sensory information, as well as our motor skills and our sleep-wake cycles, our appetite, and our mood. Psychedelics are theorized to produce their effects through the stimulation of the serotonin 2A receptors. The chemicals all share an extremely similar structure, as you can see, and because of this, they hit the receptor at an unexpected angle, causing it to fold over the chemical, creating a lid. This is signaling to your brain that there's something there in the sensory information when there isn't. In the case of DMT, the effects last until it's broken down by a liver enzyme called a monoamine oxidase. This is through a process called deamination. Because of this liver enzyme, DMT is not active orally unless combined with a monoamine oxidase inhibitor, like in the example of ayahuasca. These receptors are also found in the pineal gland, which is found in the scriptures, most notably at Genesis 32:30. So Jacob named the place Peniel, saying, "Indeed, I have seen God face to face, and my life has been preserved." This is known as the third eye in most cultures and the seat of the soul in others. For Christianity, most noteworthy, it's the microcosmic Ark of the Covenant, and in your brain, actually. Beautiful, isn't it? I have a video on that as well, and a connection point to God that the prophets utilized. Psychic mediums claim to use it when they channeled their readings, and some Christian prophets are openly talk about it. This will be a whole video in and of itself, but just knowing the power of spiritual sight that this gland offers, it helps us understand DMT from a more spiritual perspective. The pineal gland is known in science to produce the neurotransmitter melatonin and serotonin, depending on whether it receives light from the eyes or darkness. This is either making you awake or sleepy. And because DMT looks like these neurotransmitters and it's proven to be in our brain and spinal column, all of these ancient spiritual practices like yoga, specifically Kundalini, certain prayer positions, and other psychophysiological methods like the Gospel of Grace, these all push or raise or release this DMT and send it towards your thalamus or the mind's eye. This is producing spiritual experiences and encounters where you're actually seeing the spiritual world. Now, I'm sure this sounds exciting and intriguing and very tempting to try, but I don't promote or advocate the use of any substance that I will ever talk about on my page, because I'm here simply for education and proper harm reduction. So with that being said, I will never tell anyone to try this, although there are natural ways to release DMT in your body that I fully support and encourage, just not the drug.
Any kind of consciousness that is not related to the production or consumption of material goods is stigmatized in our society today. Of course, we accept drunkenness. We allow people some brief respite from the material grind. A society that subscribes to that model is a society that is going to condemn states of consciousness that have nothing to do with the alert problem-solving mentality. And if you go back to the 1960s, when there was, a tremendous upsurge of exploration of psychedelics, I would say that the huge backlash that followed that had to do with a fear on the part of the powers that be, that if enough people went into those realms and those experiences, the very fabric of the society we have today would be picked apart, and most importantly, those in power at the top would not be in power at the top anymore.
While it might seem extremely far out to say that DMT and other psychedelics are showing us the spiritual realm, and some people have a really hard time wrapping their heads around this, the evidence is just simply overwhelming. Very recently, one of the very few people on Earth who have scientifically studied DMT, Dr. John Dean, has published a study that has ended the debate on whether or not DMT is endogenously produced in the mammalian brain. It is. Very much so. So much so, in fact, that it is now in a class of molecules theorized to possibly be neurotransmitters. If DMT is in fact a neurotransmitter, this means for a fact waking reality is in some form a hallucination, or a better term would be a simulation, created entirely from chemicals versus a computer code written by man, which would be a bad copy. If such a discovery were made that DMT is in fact a neurotransmitter, this would prove a god concretely through science. And with this knowledge, we would expect to see a fixed merging between science and spirituality. This is revolutionary, and it would change how all of us see the entire world. As always, thank you all for watching. All of my content is entirely listener supported and funded. Content recommended by you all and for you all. And for those interested in supporting this channel and all the work I do, you can follow me on Patreon at www.patreon.com/JohnTylerTuck, where you can get access to my esoteric maps, my Christian Kabbalistic astrology, all of my pre-released videos, as well as having your input on the content I will be releasing in the future. All for as little as $1 a month at the bottom tier. Thank you all. I love you all. Shabbat Shalom and Assalamu Alaikum.